This is a short video review for the final exam in my business communication class, BUS240. This short video will cover chapters 8 through 13, which are the chapters covered after the midterm. Chapter 13, there'll only be a little on it because we didn't go over it in detail. However, you should still know what a resume is, the different parts of a resume, the difference between a chronological resume, a functional resume, a scannable resume, and a targeted resume. That's it for Chapter 13. Chapter 12 is the chapter on designing and delivering business presentations. You need to know how to plan a business presentation, how to select, design, and present visuals effectively, and the different methods for delivering a business presentation. A couple of vocabulary words you should know. What is articulation and these different methods? Extemporaneous presentation, impromptu presentation, memorized presentation, and a manuscript presentation. You should know the steps to planning a successful business presentation. How to effectively organize the contents of your presentation, including the introduction, the body, and the closing. Also, how do you add compelling presentation visuals? Also, the difference between a structured slide and an unstructured slide. Guidelines for using effective videos, including limiting the number, limiting the content on your slides, choosing an effective color scheme, and using appropriate text on your slides. You should also know the term phonation. We already went over the different methods. One last thing, you should know how to do a distance presentation over internet conferencing. And that's pretty much it for Chapter 12. Chapter 11 is organizing and preparing reports and proposals. First, identify parts of a formal report. How to organize report findings. How formal and long reports are different from informal and short reports. Oh, a couple of vocabulary words. What is an addenda? What is an executive summary, and why do you need one? What are preliminary parts? What's a solicited proposal and an unsolicited proposal? Also, what is an RFP? What do we mean by the analytical report? Where do the conclusion and recommendations come in? Oh, and how to put together a formal report. In a formal report, you avoid first person, you don't use contractions, use an active voice, and be consistent in your tense. For a short report, what goes in a short report, and what do we mean by an informal report? Let's see. That's pretty much it for chapter 11. Chapter 10 is the chapter on managing data and using graphics. First, you should know how to create appropriate graphics and how to communicate quantitative information. And what do we mean by quantitative information as opposed to qualitative information? Next, some vocabulary words. What do we mean by common language? When do you use a bar chart, a flow chart, a Gantt chart, a line chart, and a pie chart? Also, the use of graphics. When is it appropriate and how many? Or one last thing. When do you use a table? And what sort of information would go in a table or a map? Also, what do we mean by preliminary research and secondary research? Chapter 9, Understanding the Report Process and Research Methods. From this chapter, you should know the characteristics of a report and the different classifications of business reports. What are the steps in the problem-solving process for report writing? When do you use printed or electronic and primary sources of information? In terms of vocabulary, you should know what we mean by experimental research, a formal report, what is a hypothesis, an informal report, observational studies, plagiarism, primary research, problem statement, what's a proposal, and what do we mean by procedures or methodology, sampling, random samples, secondary research and some sources of it, statement of purpose, and what do we mean by validity and reliability? In terms of secondary research, you should be able to identify some sources. And in terms of preliminary research or primary research, you should know methods for conducting primary research. There's one more thing. We got problem statement, hypothesis, secondary research, sampling. I think that's actually pretty much all you need from this chapter. Chapter 8, Delivering Persuasive Messages. How do you do an effective outline? What do we mean by a persuasive document or message? And how to make a persuasive request. What is the AIDA model? Attention, interest, desire, and action. What is a central selling point? And again, the term persuasion. This is actually a short chapter. Those are the things you need to get from chapter 8. Now, this final exam is 80% things we covered after the midterm and 20% basic information you should know to get out of a business communication class. From chapter 1, what is communication? What is the communication process? Who's the sender? Who's the receiver? What do we mean by coding and decoding? Different forms of organizational communication: upward, downward, and horizontal. What is the formal communication network, and what is the informal communication network? What does the term ethnocentrism mean? What is diversity? Also, what is interference or noise? What are stereotypes? And from this chapter, you should also know what are stakeholders. What's a virtual team? Last thing that you should know is the difference between the indirect approach, what is it and when is it appropriate to use it, the direct approach, and when is it appropriate to use that. This ends this short review. Thank you and good luck.